Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to the Basqueland, or Euskadi as they would call it in their native language, in the northern part of Spain, and we're going to have a look at another beer from a brewery that I haven't had anything from in quite some time actually. I'm not sure why I haven't found any beers from these guys in quite a while. Maybe they just haven't made it up here to Scandinavia, but this one was a really nice find actually when I was over in Copenhagen the other day, so hopefully I can get more from these guys at some point in the fairly near future. For this review though, we are going to go to a little place called Hernani, to the south of San Sebastian in the Basqueland, Euskadi, and we're having a look at another beer from Basqueland Brewing, or Basqueland Brewing Project as they were previously known. This particular beer is called Skate or Die. It comes in at 6.7% ABV, and they're describing this one as a West Coast IPA. So yeah, really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. I've heard that these guys have been doing some really nice stuff recently. Some of the English guys also doing the beer tubing thing were telling me that they've had some really nice beers from these guys, so hopefully I can get more from these guys fairly soon. The other beers that I've had from Basqueland Brewing Project before, the very first one was back in 2017, and that was Imparable IPA, and then after that I had a collaboration beer that they did with Magic Rock from over in England, and that was a very nice beer as well. So this is only my third beer that I'm doing involving this brewery, and it's the first one that I've had out of a can as well actually, if we count it as, you know, their own brewer. Pretty sure the first one that we had was in a bottle actually, the Imparable IPA. If I remember rightly, that had a green label on it, and it had like gold sort of fingers on the front of it and things, which was pretty cool. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I do remember being very impressed with that. From what I understand, the Basqueland Euskadi, their beer scene has been growing a lot over the last few years. I know the same thing is going on over in Catalonia as well, and you know, other places throughout Spain seem to be producing more and more craft beer as well actually. I've never been to mainland Spain at all actually. I've been to the Canary Islands, but yeah, mainland Spain, Catalonia, Basqueland as well, are places that I really want to go and visit actually. I've heard the north coast is very beautiful actually, so fingers crossed I can go and have a look at that sometime. That's definitely on the list of places to go. So yeah, nice to have these guys back on the channel after quite some time, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. And if you are watching from Euskadi, the Basqueland, please do let me know some of the other local breweries and things that you guys would like to see me review. It's always cool to learn about these different breweries from those of you who are living there. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this review then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Basqueland Brewing or Basqueland Brewing Project before, and hopefully you can see more added to that list in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Spanish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, or being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Basqueland Brewing Project then, on to my brewery notes. So Basqueland Brewing Project, as I've mentioned to you before, were founded back in 2014, and they're based in Hernani in the Basque Country, just to the south of San Sebastian in northern Spain. It's only about 20 kilometres or so from the French border. But the brewery was founded by three Americans. This is Kevin Patricio, who is the CEO, there's Benjamin Rotze, who is the sales and distribution manager, and then there's Benjamin Matz, who is the head brewer. So Kevin apparently was the first to arrive in Basqueland, having met a girl from the local area while he was working as a chef in New York, and then he moved back over there with her. But while there, he opened up his own cocktail bar / restaurant in the area, and that really gave him a feel for you know, the local food scene and the local drink scene and things like this. But while he was living there, he noticed that the Basqueland had a gap in the market for local beer. This region was largely known for its number of cider breweries that it has, and also for the wineries, as well as apparently very nice food. But upon kind of realising this, he invited his friend Ben Matz to join the project. So Ben Matz grew up in San Diego over in California, and at the age of 17 he bought his first home brewing kit, and from then on he was hooked for life. Apparently his dad dad was an avid drinker of beers from all across the world, and this is where his early love of beer kind of kicked in actually. But after working for Stone Brewing and Pizza Port Brewing in California, as well as Ventland Brewery in Mexico, he moved out to help his friend in Basqueland, Euskadi. But the brewery started off by renting a very modest facility in La Rioja. And they brewed kind of small batches of about between 3,000 and 5,000 litres. This went very, very well for them. They sold their pallets out very, very quickly. And at this point, they added Benjamin Rotzi to the team. And he takes care of the business side of the company and helping it grow in terms of sales and distribution and things like that, as I mentioned earlier. But in July of 2015, they established their own brewery in the Acarregi Industrial Estate, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in Hernani, which again is to the south of San Sebastian, and they produced around 160,000 litres of beer across 2016, and they've expanded the brewery over the last few years with various new tanks and other infrastructure that's been added in, and they also have a tap room on site now as well. And as of October 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 160 different kinds of beer, which is pretty impressive when you consider they've been going, they've only really had their own brewery for about 5 years, so that's about 30 different beers a year, one every 2 weeks or so. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool actually. And as I said, the Basqueland, from what I gather, has been growing its beer scene over the last few years. We know the same thing is going on in Catalonia, and we are getting various different breweries from across other parts of Spain as well. Here in Scandinavia and things. So yeah, it's pretty cool actually, and I know that they've got their own language and things. They've got a very distinctive culture, both linguistically, culturally, all of that kind of thing. The Basqueland Euskadi has a very, very distinctive culture that is different from the rest of Spain actually. But yeah, interesting place actually. I think the main city, if I remember rightly, in Euskadi is Zaragoza, if I remember rightly. I think it is. But yeah, it would be cool to go and visit there at some point. So yeah, mainland Spain is somewhere that I really have to go and visit, in Catalonia and Basqueland would definitely be on that list. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Basqueland Brewing Project for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they do. So yeah, it's definitely something you want to do. They've got quite a nice website there. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer itself then. So as I kind of mentioned to you earlier, I picked this beer up at Kiosk, my favourite beer shop over in Copenhagen. They do get a fair number of different beers from different countries there, but it'd been a long time, as I say, since I saw something from Basqueland, and that was the main reason that I got this, along with the fact that it was a West Coast IPA. So I'll need to try something, maybe a New England one or a different style from these guys next time. But yeah, 6.7% ABV, and apparently this one is hopped with, it was dry hopped with Citra, sorry, not Citra, Simcoe, Amarillo and Meridian. And Meridian was a hop that I hadn't heard of, so I did a little bit of research on this. Apparently this is a Crosby hop. It was discovered by accident back in 2011, and it's supposed to give you a lot of tropical and citrus fruit, some berry flavours, as well as a little bit of spearmint apparently. And usually it has around a 6.5% alpha acid. So yeah, I think it was they only put it out commercially in about 2015 or 2016, and this is certainly the first time that I've heard of it as well. So I'm very curious to see how it turns out in this one. I'm curious to know how the guys at Basqueland heard about this as well, but I suppose if their brewing man is from California, not a surprise that he's up to date with all the different hops and things like that. But this is certainly the first time I've heard of the Meridian hop actually. But yeah, this one is a 440 centilitre can, 6.7% West Coast IPA, 65 IBUs it says on the can too. But yeah, nice artwork on this. There you can see the Basqueland Brewing symbol, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. Very, very curious about this beer. You can smell the West Coast on this already. As I've told you before, Amarillo was always one of my favourite hops. I love the big orangey leaning IPAs, so I've got high hopes for this. I've had some really good beers from across Spain in recent years. Mainly the ones that we've had have come from Barcelona in Catalonia, like Edge Brewing and things like that. And then when I think these guys were maybe the third or fourth brewery that I discovered from down there. The very first Spanish beers I ever had were from Cervecería Tiras, who I think are from Valencia, if I remember rightly. I reviewed another beer of theirs quite recently because it appeared randomly It appeared quite randomly in Systembolaget up here in Sweden, which was pretty cool. But yeah, this one, I have to say, looks very, very nice. It does look a little bit almost New Englandish, to be honest with you. It's got a good little bit of haze to it. But if we shine the light through it, you see that it is more, you do see that it is more of a West Coasty haze, this one. It looks very bright because of the way the light's hitting it, but you can see there is a solid half finger of what I would say is a frothy, perfect white head actually. One or two big bubbles sticking to the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there. I mean, overall, it does look very, very nice, and yeah, one of the slightly more hazy West Coast IPAs that I've come across actually, so that's quite interesting. What does it say? Does it say, yeah, it just says water, malt and hops, it doesn't say oats or wheat or anything like that. So yeah, should be quite an interesting one. This one probably will be a straight up West Coast IPA by the looks of it and by the smell of it as well. So on that note, let's take a closer look at the aroma and see how we go on. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of appearance, apart from it being one of the more hazy West Coast IPAs that I've come across. So yeah, let's have a little look at this and see how we go. Oh yeah, no, straight away this one is West Coast all the way. Don't let appearances fool you. That's the age-old lesson to take away from this. The aroma of this beer is absolutely lovely. Yeah, that is pretty awesome, I have to say. Thumbs up to Basqueland Brewing for this. You can actually smell that spearminty note from the Meridian as well. That smells really nice. So where to begin with this one? Straight away with this beer, you get that lovely smooth white bready base to the beer. That sort of just is the linchpin of it. You do get a wee bit of a biscuity quality to this one, a sort of McVitie's digestive kind of biscuity quality in there. There is a bit of a sweeter caramel as well. But yeah, it's very, to me it's got a really nice kind of smooth bready base to the beer. And I really like how this, I really like how it goes together. The malt base of this one, it is very much straight shooting, bread, biscuit, and then a bit of a sweet caramel, and then you've got all the other things from the hops coming out of this one as well. The hoppy notes that you get out of this are very unusual and very interesting, but the malt base for me comes across absolutely beautifully. Yeah, I like this one. The minty notes that you get out of this beer really throw your nose off a little bit. Your nose almost feels very, very kind of fresh almost. It reminds me of when I was in the lab. This is a weird comparison to make, by the way, so don't make too much of this. But it reminds me of the feeling if you accidentally sniffed a bit of ammonia in the lab, it almost like saturated your nose a little bit and messed up the inside of your smell receptors and things. The mintiness that you get out of this beer, in a way, it kind of does something similar because you don't really expect mintiness in beer. And so the mintiness that you're getting out of the Meridian hop in this does that a little bit. But I have to say the beer does smell absolutely lovely. So, you know, thumbs up to, definitely a thumbs up to Basqueland Brewing for this one. And I will say the more that you smell of that mintiness from the Meridian, your nose kind of adjusts to it and sort of you can pick up the other aromas a bit more. So just be aware that you will get a little bit of saturation on your nose when you first smell this beer. And it's because of that minty note. But yeah, on the hoppy side of this one then, you've got a nice little touch of earthiness to this one, quite a smooth earthiness. There's a nice little bit of floral aromaticity to this beer as well. It did say that these three hops I mentioned to you were the dry hopped ones, so the bitter characteristics that you get out of this one will not be from those hops. They will be using another hop in the early edition. As I've told you before, if you're adding bittering hops to beer, you add those at the start of once the wort reaches the 100 degrees, and as you add them over the first hour, you get the bitterness that you get from each hop unit gradually drops, and then if you add them in the latter half hour, the last half hour of the brew, that's when you get the trade-off between bitterness and flavour and aroma coming out of these. So these three hops have been added as dry hops though, which is after the whole thing has been done. And that's at least what they said. They might have added them at different points in the brew. So I don't know what hops they're using on the base of the beer, but the dry hops are certainly Amarillo, Simcoe and Meridian. But yeah, the green side of the hops in this beer for me, it's got a lovely, quite aromatic floral note to it. I wouldn't say that it's Columbus. You know, Columbus is a very popular bittering hop. It's got a lovely spicy note to it. But yeah, you've got a nice little bit of floral aromaticity in there, a little bit of a lighter grassiness as well, but you can really feel that kind of minty freshness around the edge of the nose there as well, which is quite interesting. But behind that, You can smell, there is a wee bit of that oily passion fruit in there. You've got a wee touch of yeah, you've got a wee bit of an oily, how do you say, you have a little bit of a kind of Amarillo-y, you've got a wee bit of the oily orange from the Amarillo as well. So the fruits for me strike me as being very, very oily, to be honest with you. To me, it's strange. It almost smells as if it has a little bit of a gooseberry type quality to it. That's what I'm getting out of this one. But it's almost like a little touch kind of red berry like as well. I guess in a sense, the hop that Meridian would remind me of would be Enigma from Australia, because it's got that gooseberry element to it, but it's also got a wee bit of a kind of red fruity character, and Enigma is like that as well. It's got that almost Nelson Sauvin grapey gooseberry kind of note to it. So that's an interesting one. This, as I say, I have never ever heard of this Meridian hop, but you know, mint, like a kind of oily gooseberry-ish type note, and a bit of a kind of red berry-ish quality to it as well. It's a very interesting one. But I would say that the Amarillo oranges are quite prominent in this, and I think they do kind of, after the kind of minty notes, after you get your head round the minty notes in this beer, they do take the lead on the fruity side of things. But the Simcoe has got a wee bit of a presence with the fruit as well. You do get that more oily, passion fruity, slightly mango-y note out of this beer as well. So this one's got a really lovely aroma, I have to say, but it is quite different compared to other West Coast IPAs I've come across before. If you guys are watching from various different parts of the world, as you tend to be, let me know if you've had any other beers with Meridian in it. This is my first time encountering this hop, so that would be interesting to know actually. But yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma. This beer, quite an oily but very fresh, fresh and almost zesty smelling West Coast IPA, this one. But let's have a taste of it then and see how we get on. This one is the Skate or Die 6.7% West Coast IPA from Basqueland Brewing in Hernani in Euskadi, the Basqueland as we would call it in English. In the north of Spain. So apparently in the Euskadian language they say topa. So let's get stuck into this one. Slanja, skål, topa. Yeah, that is very nice. Just going to say thumbs up to Basqueland Brewing once again. It's a really nicely rounded beer, this one. It's got everything that you would want from a West Coaster. You know, solid stuff. Yeah, where to kind of start with this one, to be honest with you? It is just really nicely done. This is one I will be drinking this myself. You know, it's not often I get to try Basque beers. It's a long time since I've had one of these from Basqueland Brewing as well. So this is one for me. I think this is one just for me. So yeah, I'm going to be greedy with this one. But yeah, this is very, very nicely done. This one, the bitterness you get out of this and the way the bitterness builds in it as well, it's really nicely done. So yeah, straight away with this beer then you get that lovely kind of white bready quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue. It's got a good degree of smoothness to it as well actually, which I really like. So yeah, malty side of this beer really is just very, very nicely done, as I say. So yeah, you've got that lovely kind of smooth bready base to it. As you go towards the back third of your palate, you do get a few wee, kind of what do you say, dogs playing outside again. You do get a few more kind of grainy elements to it, but you can feel the kind of the bready notes just kind of thickening up a little bit on that back part of the palate, which is quite nice. So yeah, a bit of a slightly thicker bready note on the back third of your palate, a few more grainy elements coming out of it there as well. And you've also got, if you go into the middle third of your palate, you can feel it just thins out a little bit. You get a bit of a lighter kind of bready note in there as well. But on top of that, that's where you start to get the oily kind of brown sugary notes there. So you've got a few layers again, the kind of bready base bit. Then you've got that slightly more kind of biscuity layer which sits on top of it. Then if you move further into the middle of the palate, it's almost like you've got a little oily circle, if you like, of the straight up sweet caramel. And I find it actually feels just a little touch boozy in this one. If I was guessing what percentage this beer was, I would think that this was maybe a 7%er or something like that. It does come across in the malt base as being a little touch stronger actually. So yeah, I do like how that goes together in that sense too. The malty side of this beer and the kind of sweetness that it has, and also the smoothness there, goes together really nicely. This is one of these beers where everything just, I think, fits together very, very well. I think if there was one thing missing from this, I think it just wouldn't be quite right. So I think they've got something here that is just really, really nicely done. So yeah, I think they've done a good job of this. On the hoppy side of things then, I don't think we have to report much more on the kind of malty side of it. Actually, I think we've kind of covered everything that we would need to with that. It's a very straight shooting malt base for me. On the back corners of the palate then, there is a wee touch of earthiness out of this one. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate there, you do get some nice big kind of floral aromatic notes out of this one. It does actually come across as a little bit spicy, so I am wondering, maybe I was wrong in what I said about Columbus earlier, because the spiciness you get out of this one is pretty bitey actually, so I do like that. So yeah, on the kind of malty side of things then, I can feel the maltiness. You know, as you drink more and more of this beer, the maltiness gradually gets a bit sweeter. I'm noticing that you get more and more of that, and that builds into the orangey notes that the beer has, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, on the sides of the palate, it does have a nice little bit of a kind of bitey floral note to it, which is quite nice. And then around the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, but you can feel that mintiness coming out of this beer, particularly around the front edge of the tongue. You do feel that mintiness from the meridian. It is very distinctive, and you can kind of feel it gradually just spreading across around the. You can feel it gradually just spreading around the back side of the beer, around the sides of your palate there too, which is quite nice. So yeah, you really get quite a bit of a freshness out of this one. I don't know if it's quite right to call it zest, a minty zestiness. Can you say that? But yeah, that's quite an interesting thing to take away from this particular review. So yeah, it does. I do like that about this one. Yeah, that's quite interesting. But as I always say, the front third of your palate's where you get those nice oily kind of fruity characteristics coming out of the beer. So for me, fruity side of this beer, as I was indicating earlier, it really leans towards the kind of orangey side of things. It really has a big kind of orangey character to it as well, which is quite, which I think is really nice for me. As I've told you in videos before, I love a big oily orange character, and Amarillo for me is the perfect hop for that. So out of the three OG high alpha acid hops, the Simcoe, the Citra and the Amarillo, I probably would have always gone for the Amarillo, but it's been forgotten a little bit these days in favour of Mosaic actually, because Mosaic is a little bit more complex. Amarillo is a very straight up orange. So yeah, this one is nice in that regard. I love the big oily orangey notes it has. But yeah, yeah. On the kind of fruity side with this beer then, it's interesting. If you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, you've got a really nice kind of, you've got a bit of a darker, almost grapefruit note out of this one. Maybe they could have used a bit of Chinook as a bittering hop in this, in fairness, because you do get a wee bit more of a kind of dank, piney darkness out of the beer. So you've got a bit of a darker grapefruity note in this one. As you go kind of further forward, you do get a wee bit more of a kind of, you do get a little bit more of the kind of passion fruity notes, but I think that the kind of dark grapefruity note and the sort of spiciness and mintiness, those elements of the beer really linger into the aftertaste. They really do with this. But yeah, you've got a nice little bit of a more oily passion fruit there. You might get a wee touch of mango out of this one, but as you reach the kind of front half of that, as you reach the front half of that front third of your tongue, it really is very much kind of oily and more orangey, and that's the Amarillo that's giving you that. The berryish notes are quite interesting, because again, on the very tip of your tongue, you do get an almost kind of gooseberry-ish note out of this one. It's almost a little bit kind of red berry-ish as well, to be honest with you, but I find that kind of quite minimal, and it's almost like it mixes in with the orangey side of the beer as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, I do like how that side of it comes together in this one. The fruits are nice and big and oily. It suits that slightly more oily brown sugary note that you have in it as well, and it also offers a good kind of like balance against the kind of bitterness and the kind of mintiness that this beer has as well. So yeah, it's a really well-rounded West Coast IPA for me. I like how this one I do like how this one kind of pieces itself together actually. Like I said, the main thing to take away with this beer would be the fact that it's, the main thing to take away from it is that if you took one thing away from this, I don't think it would quite work in the same way as it does at the moment. So yeah, on to the mouthfeel of this beer then, and I think this is where this one really kind of stands out for me. So yeah, for the mouthfeel then, I describe this beer, it is pretty mid-bodied, but the carbonation is really very smooth on this one. It comes across, it's got a nice oiliness to it overall, this beer as well. I find this, it's quite smooth, but at the same time it's quite oily as well actually, and I like that. I think the oiliness, as I say, it suits the brown sugars, and it also suits the kind of orangey notes that this beer has as well. But you've also got a very nice, you also have a very nice kind of just big bitterness to this. It says 65 IBUs on the can. I probably would have thought it was more than this. I probably would have thought it was about 80 or something going from it, because it's got a big, almost piney resinous quality to it. It's got a bit of spice to it, and then you've also got that kind of minty note in there as well. So I probably, if I was doing that blind, I would have thought the bitterness in this beer was considerably more than it is. But yeah, in terms of the malty side of the beer, and like I say, it's got a bit of smoothness to it, a nice little bit of oily sweetness from the kind of caramelly notes in there, a little bit of graininess from the biscuit as well, like I said, and you've got a lovely kind of oily fruity note that comes out of this one. As I say, this is a really, really nice West Coast IPA. I wish we had more like this on the market, I have to say. There are more and more West Coast IPAs coming out now, which is great. It's nice to see the style making a little bit of a resurgence, and this one has certainly kind of ticked the boxes for me. The Meridian hop is really interesting. Like I say, around that kind of front edge of your tongue, you really do get a nice, that mintiness that this beer has is very kind of quirky and unusual actually. I'd love to try a couple of single hop beers with Meridian and get a proper feel for what this hop is all about. But yeah, I think this one is a really nicely done beer. So thumbs up to Basqueland Brewing Project for this one. So let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Basqueland Brewing. This one was the Skate or Die, a 6.7% West Coast IPA from Basqueland Brewing in Hernani, to the south of San Sebastian in Basqueland, Euskadi in the north of Spain. Slàinte, Skål, Topa, and thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out Basqueland Brewing. Cheers.